Hello and welcome to this BMS video. It's been a while since I've been flying a BMS and I've just come back to it recently and I'm having good fun with it, so I thought I'd maybe share some videos in the hope that maybe it would interest some other people to get involved with it. So what I'm going to do today is look at dumb bomb delivery using CCIP. And you can see we're set up with weapons loadout. That's the reason why I've taken us outside, is so we can see what we've got. And we can see we've got 6 BLU-107s, which are Durandal runway bombs. We've also got 2 cartridges here containing the BDU-33s. And you can see it's got a total of 6 munitions on each side, so a total of 12. And we're set up at the moment to run in towards the south into the Kotar weapons range. And the Kotar weapons range is a specially set up range which has got a whole variety of ground targets that you can choose to practice on in the Korean theatre. So let's jump into the pit now. And we can see we're in the standard navigation mode with our fire control radar on the left, air to air, and our HSD horizontal situation display on the right hand side. And first thing we would do in order to make sure we're ready for bombing is to check our master arm switch over here. And we would also check our laser arm if we had laser munitions and a lantern pod on board. We don't in this for this scenario. So the right hand MFCD is the one we want to focus our attention on, because this is where we set up our weapons. And the way we set up our weapons is we choose the weapons, the air to ground mode on the ICP, which is the console on the very top in front of the jet. And we click on the air to ground mode and we can see the MFCD pages have changed. On the left hand side we see the air to ground radar mode, and on the right hand side we see the SMS page. By default we're always going to enter into the CCRP mode, and we want to change that, which is what we want to do now. We click on the CCRP button, which is OSP2. OSPs are numbered in a clockwise direction, starting with the first one here. So we clicked on OSP2 and now we can see we've got a number of different options for delivery types. There's only 3 currently used in BMS, and the one we're going to focus on today is the CCIP. So once we switch over to CCIP, you see our left MFCD moves away from the ground radar mode, because that's not relevant in manual weapons delivery. By default we've got the BLU-6s loaded, and whatever is loaded from this OSP6 will determine what's going to be pickled when you release the bombs. We can cycle through these by clicking. You can see there's only 2 types there. Down here we've got on OSP7 we've got a profile button, and we've got 2 options on that, profile 1 and profile 2. And essentially we can set up 2 different profiles for any weapons that we may be able to use. So if we wanted, if there were wind conditions or changing or something like that, we may need slightly different profiles. And you would normally set this up before running into the target area, or even before takeoff. It may even be part of setup procedures on the runway. If it's a long flight, I'll generally take time, put it into autopilot mode and do the setup before fence in. The next button here is OSP8, and you can see it dictates whether the weapons are released in singles or pairs. There's only 2 options on that. This one, OSP9, dictates what is the release distance between the bombs. So if we choose to release, say, a number of different singles, what this will do is determine, the jet will calculate based on the speed it's travelling, a release interval between each of the bombs, and it can be set by clicking, and I'll do that in a moment. And then we have a ripple quantity here, and we can change that to what we wish. We've got two types of weapons here, so we could have up to 6 on the BLU 107s, or we could have up to 12 on the BDU 33s. So let's go back to one of the most important sub pages here, and it's called the SMS air to ground control page. And we select it by coming to the OSB5 button. And we can see it seems very confusing. There's a lot of information here and a lot of stuff, but in actual fact it's relatively straightforward. Not a whole lot of this is used. There's really two things to focus on when looking at this. It basically outlines several different parameters or attributes that we can apply to the release of weapons, but only each one is specific for different types of weapons. So the only ones we really need to be concerned about is there is C1 and C2, and the other parameter on the page is the release angle down here. So let's look at C1, and C1 applies to the kind of weapons which are just dumb bombs, general purpose bombs, and laser guided bombs. By the way, laser guided bombs are general purpose bombs. In other words, they don't have any special activity while they're in the air. They just land and explode. So you can see there's two parts to it. There's the AD1 and AD2 for this one. So we have two AD. We have AD1 and AD2, and these apply to different types of fusing. So AD1 refers to the nose fusing, and AD2 refers to tail fusing, and we'll only need to worry about one depending on your on the delivery you've selected. And I'll show how this has changed when we get back to the main SMS page. The next one is for is the next profile, or it's not a profile, but it's the profile attribute, is for specifically CBUs, which are cluster munitions. And you can see it's got an arming delay, and it's also got a burst altitude, and that's because of the two-stage process of those types of munitions, those types of ordnance. So we're not interested in those at the moment. We might have a look at that in a later video. So we're only interested in this C1 at the moment. So I'm going to change this and make our arming delay down to 2 seconds, which is adequate. We're going to be flying in at maybe 5,000 feet. So we're going to change our arming delay to 2 seconds by clicking on the 2, and notice that it goes in as 0.2. So you've got to add a couple of digits to the end. So it's 0. So it's basically 3 digits. So if it's 2, it's 200. Once you're happy with that number, we enter the next one. And we're going to enter, this is for the tail release. It doesn't really matter here, so we don't need to change it. So I'm going to say I'm going to say return to our previous page, and now we can see we have the 2-second arming delay here. Before we leave this page, I'm going to change this release angle. The release angle is there, and essentially it prevents you from releasing the weapon until you dive to that angle or greater than that angle. So if you're at a shallower angle, the weapons won't release. Now I really don't use this, so what I do is I normally set that to 0, enter, and return to the SMS page. So let's look here at the type of arming, the type of fusing, and you can see here we have nose, tail, and NSTL, and we're going to use nose as we described, and we've set up our arming delay for the nose. Finally, we're going to go through these items here and make sure the number of weapons that we're releasing and the spacing and so on is correct. We're going to do the 6 together of the BLU 107s. We're going to choose profile 1. We're going to select single units, so we're going to space them all out in the line. I'm going to change this spacing from 175 to 250. Again, press the enter page. It all follows the same routine when you're changing the parameters in the sub pages for the SMS. And finally, a ripple. We're going to, the number of pulses that we're going to release, the number of weapons or bombs we're going to release is our full amount, which is 6. And once again we enter and it takes us back to that page. So we're all set up now. We've got 6 BLUs. We've got it's designated as 6 singles using profile 1 with an arming delay of 2 seconds from the nose with a spacing of 200 feet, and we're pretty much ready to go. So I'm going to drop down to an altitude of around 500 or 5,000, and I'm going to change to our ground radar. I'm going to speed it up a bit because speeding it up puts our weapons release cue a little bit further ahead of us, so we don't have to dip the nose down so much. I'll raise the nose up, and we'll have to dip it down a little bit when we get closer. So now we can see the weapons cue, and I'm going to hold it steady and I'm going to press release, hold the pickle.
Miles away, miles away, miles
We're going to
away.
turn and have a look what we've done. Okay, they pretty much covered a good proportion of the runway. So we're going to go back around now, and we're going to deliver the other 6 dumb bombs in a similar way. I'm going to set my heading to north. And while we're flying, we're going to change the weapon here. So I've changed it to 12. I'm going to change my ripple to 12. And that's pretty much the only thing I need to do. The current steer point is set for the Qatar range, and we can see we're approximately 3.2 miles from it. So we're going to run out a little bit more, and then we're going to turn back in. So we're coming around almost like a pattern on this range, which is quite useful, particularly if you have a number of people practicing on the range. It's good to set up a pattern and deconflict so there's no possibility of people running into people. There's actually a very useful document that's worthwhile looking at, and it's called Qatar Range Operations. And it was done by Red Dog in 2011, and you could probably track it down on the BMS forums.
Altitude, altitude.
Okay, so we're reasonably well lined up now. Note I'm slightly nose down. Pickle now. Okay, let's come off target so we can see what happens here.
Caution. Caution.
Okay, so we can see those 12 have gone in a line nicely. And they're just smoke bombs to be able to indicate where your targets have hit or where your bombs have hit. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do on this short video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to be able to put together some more. And for now I'm going to make it back to home plate. Thanks for watching.